guys, it's Francine Simone, and today I am here with a YA book hype review of Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. So if you can tell, I bought this book. I originally had a copy from the library, and that's what I read. And after reading it, I was like, boom, bitches, I gotta go out and buy this because I really enjoyed the book. But before I get into anything of why I bought it and why I like it, because that's also really subjective, let's do a review on whether it is a quality story. Is it a book worth reading, or is it a book that we deserve to read? Does it deserve to be on this shelf? As most of you guys know, I do my book reviews on quality, whether it's coherent and cohesive, if it's constructed well, not necessarily if it's something that I like to read or something that should be shared among the masses, whether it's something that's moving or inspirational. None of that matters because that is all subjective. But I base all of my reviews on an objective analysis on whether this is a quality book, whether what the author set out to tell us about the stories, about the character, the world, and the plot, whether they achieved that by the end, and whether there are glaring plot holes, or whether it's all sewed up, crisp, tight, whether it's a series or standalone, it doesn't matter, but whether this book by itself is quality. So if you're really confused, or you're like, this bitch don't know what she's talking about, there's some videos in the card link up right here. Woo, it'll pop up. The videos there are all of my videos based on what I talk about quality and authenticity and what I mean. So if you want to watch those to figure it out first, go ahead and watch those. If you're not going to watch it, fine. But if you get confused, don't be blaming me. So let's jump into a synopsis of Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This book is actually a spin-off of her Grisha trilogy series, so the world is already built in itself from the other series, and this follows a completely different group of people. I believe I didn't really read the other ones. And it's also set in a completely different part of the world. Kerch, which is like a huge commerce island. There's lots of trickery and thievery going on in here. I mean, it is the slums of the slums. It is the urban of the urban. It is, you know, where gangs are born. The Barrel. Look at that cover. It's all dark and shit. Don't expect anything nice from this story. It's not nice. Don't read it to your children before bed. In fact, if you need shit that like makes your heart feel good, pass. The front of it says, 6 dangerous outcasts, 1 impossible heist. These 6 people have to break into a high security prison. And when I said that they are unsavory, that means that they are all morally ambiguous. You are not going to find a hero in this bunch. The point of it is these people, they are driven for their own motives to rescue the scientist who has created a drug that can fuck up a whole lot of people's lives. They're not even friends. Like, this book reminds me a lot of Firefly. But if everyone was like Jane, it is just full of people who all have ulterior motives, and they do things, they have a means to an end, and it's just yummy. So let's go ahead and jump into character authenticity. This book follows 6 main characters, mainly 5 different points of views, but there are 6 main characters wrapped up in it. So let's start off with the most mainest character, that would be Kaz. He is the leader of this crew, and he is the most morally bankrupt in this group. Kaz is all about getting shit done for the money. If you have something to give him, or he can get something from you, then fine, you can come along. But if you ain't got nothing for Kaz, Kaz ain't got nothing for you. This is something that is reiterated throughout the story, and he never breaks character. Then we have Inej. I think her name's Inej. She is the killer with a conscience. She's kind of your cliche, like, killer preacher. Someone who is highly religious, but they also do things that are questionable or sinful, I should say. But I would say that though that is a cliche and it's a trope, Bardugo does it so well, and she never breaks character, and she never does anything for the sake of being that. So the cliche and the trope turn into something that is actually authentic to this character. So I loved Inej. She's also a little less morally bankrupt than the others. Yes, she does these horrible things. However, she is a little bit more like, you know, if any one of them could have been your friend, it would probably be Inej. Next we have Nina. She is a Grisha soldier, and she's a survivor, and she is not afraid to be feminine. She is something that I love in female, like, kick-assy kind of characters. She is probably the least bankrupt of everyone because she's a soldier and she's a part of a war. She actually does believe in fighting for something and not just herself. So she really stays true to that throughout this entire story. No matter what she does and no matter how she does it, she's always putting other things above herself. So I love that about her in this character, and I love how Bardugo stayed authentic to that and she never changed it up for situations or to continue the plot or anything like that. So another authentic character. Now let's talk about Jasper. He is a city slick farm boy with a lot of fucking demons, though he has potential to be a lot more. Jasper is one of my most favorite authentic characters in this book because he honestly stayed true to himself like 100% all the way to the end. There is a very pivotal moment in this book, which if you've read it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, where he showed his true colors and just exactly the type of individual that he is. And he was honest about it, which lets us know that he came to terms with it in a certain kind of way. And I just absolutely love that. Next is Mateus. He is the religious Kool-Aid drinker with honor. I'm telling you, this guy, he must have been the most decent of the characters, but because he's suffered from a personal tragedy and he was so wrapped up in not only his religion, because that's the part that made him decent, but in the cult rhetoric that was also wrapped up in his religion, based on what other people were kind of putting together for this whole Grisha war that's been going on between his country and the Grisha. Like, because he was so wrapped up in that, he had so many internal struggles that were just beautifully done throughout the book. I mean, every time we were in this dude's head, it wasn't just about his romance with another character, it was about all of his struggles in seeing all these other characters and how they thought, and man, was that amazing. And it added those layers that gives us that authenticity and that allows us to see when a character makes certain judgments or when they make certain decisions, where it came from and why he was behaving that way. And it was just so beautifully done. This is like I'm on repeat here. Beautifully done, beautifully done. Bardugo, you got me, girl, you got me. And then last, for one of our main characters, we have Wilin. He is like the pampered geek who's slumming it. He came up in... No, thank you. You can have your cookie. The child just tried to share a cookie with me so that I would ignore the fact that he went and got a cookie without asking. Slick, but I saw right through it. Back to Wilin. He's another character who's decent, but because he's not a part of this lifestyle, it's hard to see him as, you know, the one like saving light or the angel in the bunch, because he's often the pit of a joke, because he doesn't know about how things function or why things are the way that they are or why these people behave the way that they do. I mean, there are certain situations where he's questioning Kaz because he's like, you know, that's really fucked up, bruh. And Kaz is like, dude, this is how we do here in the fucking slum. Dude, if you can't stand the heat in this kitchen, I'll tie your ass up next to the stove because I still need your ass for collateral. So with Wilin, I thought that he stayed true to himself the entire time. Even though we didn't get like a point of view perspective from him specifically, I thought that his character growth and his change while being around these other people, it was so well done from the other characters' perspectives, and it made him authentic in my eyes because they were seeing him and his multiple layers in theirs. Another beautifully done thing. Thank you, Bardugo. I want to talk about another thing that I thought was really great in this, and it was diversity. All of these characters were extremely ethnic. I mean, you have two who are from completely different parts of the world, so their skin color is different. Kaz, I don't know where he's from, but he seems like he's like fairly pale, but also very dark in hair color, and probably like if you were to consider someone from like Eastern Europe. So he had very dark features, but he was also pale of skin. And then you have Mateus, who was like pale as hell, bright blue eyes, blonde hair that is almost silver. And I did notice some ties between the way that he looks, the way that his people behave, and like the Nazi agenda. I was like, damn, you went straight for it, Bardugo. Okay, I see what you're doing here. And then you have the other characters, which I'm assuming they look Caucasian, but however, their looks were never really talked about in depth that way, so they could be kind of anything. I love how she dealt with ethnicity in this book, because everyone was treated as an equal. And I don't mean that in the sense that there was no racial qualms. I mean, when she described the way that they looked, she did it in equal ways. It wasn't, oh, this person has dark skin, so I need to obviously talk about their dark skin all the time, or how beautiful their dark skin is, or how ugly their dark skin is, or how different their dark skin is. No, it was done in ways that was very fitting and appropriate to the situations. And when people have pale skin, and she's bringing up Mateus's blue eyes and all these other things, these are very significant markers that make him other. And there were other significant markers that made Jasper or Inej other when they're in a situation when they're surrounded by people who look like Mateus, or Mateus is surrounded by people who don't look like him. So it was very well done, as in everyone was equally depicted when they stood out as other in an environmental situation, and when they behaved as an other in the context of the group situation. And that is how you avoid stereotypes and tokenisms and all that other crazy shit that comes along with people trying to be diverse, but feeling like they need to prop something up or to show something very specifically. That also leads into how two characters are portrayed as queer in this book. And I thought that that was beautiful because it was done in the same way as the other relationships. And normally when you see queer characters having a relationship, it's usually kind of like highlighted, like spotlight, look at them. And then usually people always have to bring in like the dynamics of what it means to be gay or this or that. And, you know, they turn it into a soapbox or a platform to talk about instead of just showing it and being like, boom, this is what's happening right here. And that is the shit that I love, man. And I love how Bardugo dealt with these characters because she wanted to show you who the character was, not what they were, but who they are on the inside. Not all their outside features, not how they love or who they love, but how they love. Not them fictitious labels that we be putting on ourselves or needing other people to put on themselves so we can feel like we're a part of a club. And I love that because this is inclusionism to the max because, ooh, that's all I'm gonna say. Okay, so I do want to say one thing bothered me about the characters things, and it's really quick, and that is age. I felt like ultimately a lot of these people were aged very young, and it rang as inauthentic to me, like completely. It made me uncomfortable sometimes. I mean, maybe Inej could have been the only 17-year-old here, but Kaz rang as at least 23 to 25. Everyone else was aged at least 23 to 25. I could have even taken 20 in some instances for some characters, but not 18 and younger. These people were way older than that. The way that somebody reacts or how they behave, it has a lot to do with their personal experience and their trials and tribulations through life and how they react through life and how they learn to react through life and just dealing with consequences and stuff. And to me, for them to be doing that, like a lot of these characters, it would have been from a very short period of time that this is happening to them. Kaz maybe the longest, from like 9 to 17. But Inej, Nina, these people, it's like maybe only 3 years they've had to have all these experiences that grow them. And to me, it takes a lot longer than 3 years to like not only deal with the trauma, but to be able to react in a mature way based on the trauma. And so the ages really killed it for me. Whenever they were brought up, I was just like, I'm just gonna pretend like I didn't see that because I really like this book. But that was about it. You know, a story that really reminds me of this one, and I kept thinking of it a lot, was Mistborn. The relationship between Vin and Kessel. I don't remember the names. I read it so long ago. But Vin was like maybe in his 30s or late 20s or something, and I think Vin was a teen. The relationship between Inej and Kaz felt a lot like that. And you know what? I understand that because romance is hinted at with them. I understand that it's very difficult to justify a 17-year-old and a 30-year-old being in a romantic relationship with each other, or that being healthy, despite however morally ambiguous this is. Just people will fight you on that, no matter whether you're like, but it's just a story. People would be like, no, bitch, stop. So I understand that. I just wish that other characters' ages weren't mentioned at all, because then I could have gotten away. She could have been like, no, he's like 18. And I would have been like, bitch, you lying, but okay, I get it. Or I could have just imagined it in my head of him being like 20-something and her being a little bit older, or even 17, 18, that's fine. But I know to be categorized as young adult, she probably aged them all down so that it would fit in that category. And was it a mistake? I just wish that it wasn't mentioned at all, and that would have fixed it, and that would have been a lot better. And she just could have been like, yeah, it's young adult because they are young. Well, how old are they? Bitch, they're young. I said they're young. Put it in the shelf. It's young. Adult. Like, I could have got that. So let's move on to plot authenticity. So as I said, the plot of this story is essentially, we've got characters going on a heist to save a scientist who has developed a drug that could fuck up a lot of people's lives. And they're just being paid a lot of money to do this, so Cass puts together a crew to get this done. A lot of people complained about pacing in this. And guys, this is a thick book. I mean, well, it looks all tiny from here, and you're probably like, bitch, you lie, that ain't thick. But Like, if you look at it, it's like 462 pages, so it's pretty thick for a heist. I think you were expecting something that just like jumps into it, gets it going. Like, I think Ocean's 11 is pretty like, the whole movie is during the heist. This book isn't like that. This book is more like a hero's quest without heroes. So it starts off with a prologue of the problem, and then it moves into showing you who the characters are, a scene that cements them. Then it moves into the characters starting the quest, preparing for the quest, and then eventually doing the quest. And you learn a lot about the characters as you go along through flashbacks. Now, sometimes these flashbacks I think were a bit ill-placed because they did a lot for character development, but they didn't do a whole lot for the pacing of the story. But because they did a lot for character development, if you were really into the characters, you're gonna love it. If not, it might grind your gears a bit. So last, let's get into world authenticity. One thing about this world is it is already built from the Grisha trilogy, so if you haven't read that and you start reading this book, it's one of those books where you dive into the world and you have to learn as you go. So is it authentic? I felt like because she'd already spent 3 books previously building this world, she really knew what the fuck she was talking about. It is authentic. The world is full of information. And I just mean that there are plenty of things for the characters to interact with, and the characters react to their world a specific way. The world has molded these characters a very specific way, and nothing stands out. Nothing is glaring, and everything is like a fine piece of machinery where it just all fits and it clinks as it's going around. It's like a tick and watch. And I really thought that was extremely prevalent in the language and the vernacular of the people, especially in Kirch, especially where Mateus is from. Don't even try to get me on names. However, speaking of names, I do know that a lot of people who know a lot about the Dutch Golden Era have issues with this book because it is a lot of mismatching of worlds. It's based on a lot in our real world, all pulled together and mismatched for her liking in her fictional world. It reminds me a lot of, if you've ever seen Full Metal Alchemist, the anime, or if you've read the manga, that world is set in Germany. In fact, there's a movie in which Elric goes into our reality Germany during World War II or World War I, I can't remember, but we realize that it's a parallel universe, that his world just happens to develop alchemy and our world just so happens to develop chemistry and science and so it went in a different direction. So I felt like Bardugo's world is very reminiscent of that. 2 worlds that run parallel, but they've gone in different directions. Maybe ours in the form of human and science, and theirs in the form of we have mutated people who do a lot of things. So we don't need science as much as we do these people and the issues that are involved with that. So I thought it was very well done, but then again, I don't have any issues with mix matching of things like that. So if you do, it might really like shake you up a lot, because if you're used to something being very specific in one way and you can just be like, nah, this is mismatch and she just painting by numbers on this shit and I don't like it, well, that's going to bother you. And I don't think that you would do well to read this story. However, it is authentic to itself. It never jumps out of itself or pretends to be anything else besides what it is. So if you love morally bankrupt characters or moral ambiguity, like I am, like a queen of moral ambiguity, that shit just gets me. So I love that kind of stuff. So I love this book. If you don't pick up this book. It will drive you fucking nuts. But don't expect them to be like your best friends who would never stab you in the back. As soon as you stop being relevant to these people, they will drop you like a hot pocket. Do people drop hot pockets? Did I mean hot potato? So at the end of the day, Bardugo, she has a quality, coherent piece of work here. I don't know about the original Grisha series because, like I said, I read the first book a long ass fucking time ago. But I do, and I will stand behind this 100%. It deserves to be on a shelf, like, completely. And in fact, it is on my shelf now. I love this book, and I will read the second one because I dig these characters. Oh, if you need your characters to be your friends, like you invite them over for tea and shit, don't read this book because these people will not be your friends. They are not friend material. However, they are lovable in their own way, and they are cool and crazy in their own way if you like people who are dysfunctional and shit. And I don't mind them as long as they stay in books and not in my life. Let me know down below if you've read this book or if you plan on reading this book and what your thoughts were on it or whatever. I will do the breakdown in just a little bit and get that up too. By the way, sorry, normally I post on Mondays, but I did this one like the first time early in the morning yesterday and it fucking sucked. So I just decided to do it today. I'm saying it like y'all be noticing like you got me on a timer or something. You're probably just like, bitch, I didn't even know that you did reviews. So as always, don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up, and leave some comments down below or tweet me at Francine Simone with any kind of questions, thoughts, or whatever. I hope to see you in the breakdown. DTYO, stop for now. Bye!